Good afternoon. I see we have a quorum. Today is October 18. I see all of you. So we start the meeting. I don't have any remark. Thank you for being here today. Addition, changes to the agenda.
Madam President, we need to have an executive session at the end of the open meeting to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance of an employee. So in other words, we need to have an executive session for a personnel matter.
Thank you. We will do the executive session after our meeting is over. Disclosure of campaign contribution. Anybody want to give money away? No.
Nahid, I have a disclosure. I did two things since I was appointed. First, I donated $100 to the campaign of Bill Folden in Frederick County for delegate to the Maryland legislature. And second, I was a sponsor on the Maryland Federation of Republican Women lunch, which was held earlier this week, and attended that and contributed as a sponsor.
Thank you.
That's fine.
That's okay. Any other?
How much?
Yes?
How much?
Yes, David.
I'll let Alan speak first, and then I'll be my turn. Yeah, I was asking, how much did you contribute to the Maryland Federation of Republican Women?
$500.
Thank you.
You got it?
Federation of Women, is that one that she needed to?
Actually, I attended luncheon too, but that was about the luncheon, 100 years luncheon. Actually, I attended the same luncheon federation. That was 100 years of Women Federation.
Yes.
Celebration of women's rights. Thank you. Is it all? All right then. Thanks very much.
Can we just have, David has a question, but can we have everyone speak louder if you don't mind?
David, can you repeat what?
Yeah, mine is not a question. I have first I have a comment and then a disclosure to make. My comment is that I believe that Ami just made a disclosure that's not required by our rules because
Can you hear?
I don't know what else to do.
We cannot hear you, David. Something wrong. Can you hear it?
Let me try to use my...
I can hear it. We can hear
But in here, we cannot hear you. We have some. Janet, Vinny. Janet is there. Unmute me.
I muted the computer.
But you weren't able to hear me.
See,
we can hear you, David.
Okay. Ami, I believe that you're not
Can you try that?
Thank you.
There's a pivot.
Okay.
Not for this.
That you're
Is there something that fits that one? No, nothing. If I'm on that side, it's not going to work.
We're doing some operation in here. Give us a few seconds.
Fit here?
Okay.
I wanted to disclose.
That's for earphones.
Kevin is going to talk with us about one particular issue.
Oh, jeez.
Required to disclose attendance at certain events, but not contributions that lead to that attendance. I attended an event yesterday that was sponsored by the Montgomery County Democratic Party, and it was a celebration of democracy. And I attended it based on a contribution that I made more than a year ago that entitled me to free attendance at all party events. The contribution itself was not disclosable because it was to a party organization, but the attendance at the event is disclosable under our bylaw. So the contribution was a $500 contribution. Like I said, it was a long time ago, it was more than a year ago. But there haven't been in-person events for much of that time, so that is why that contribution is tied to this event. So, anyway, so I attended that event yesterday.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Public comment. Lisa, do we have any?
Ms. Kozame, no one asked to address the board in advance.
Alright.
If there's anyone on the meeting who would like to address the board, if they can raise their hand now. use the raise hand feature on
Yeah, if
the
anybody
Zoom.
want to talk,
Delegate
Mr.
Carr.
Carr. The chair recognizes Mr. Carr. Mr. Carr, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board and staff and others. My name is Al Carr. I'm a delegate from District 18. And I wanted to just take a moment, if now is the appropriate time, to speak briefly about a letter that we sent you from the District 18 delegation. We had some specific boundary changes to precincts that we are suggesting in District 18. And so those are in the letter. And the reason for the boundary changes are to make it easier for people to vote on election day, to maximize pedestrian safety, make it easier for people to walk to the polls, not have to cross busy roads or unsafe intersections. And, you know, understanding that, of course, there are many moving parts, and you'll be looking at all of these issues in the coming weeks and months, and there's no expectation that you're going to be considering this today, but we did want to put it on your radar screen for consideration and let you know that, you know, it's been discussed among our precinct organization, so it has been vetted to a certain extent, and you know, we believe these changes are worthy of your consideration and that they will help people to arrive safely at the polls on election day.
Yes, thank you very much. We did get your letter, and our board attorney will explain to you what our options are.
Thank you, Delegate Carr, for your, among others, very thoughtful letter. Certainly the recommendations and proposals that you are suggesting are going to be considered when other precinct changes are going to be implemented after the county council passes redistricting. And so your letter is certainly going to be taken into consideration in the changes that you're proposing.
So we are sending a letter to them.
And we will be sending a letter acknowledging receipt of your letter, and that your recommendations are going to be under consideration.
Any other questions, sir?
Madam President, may I ask a question of Delegate Carr? First of all, Delegate Carr, thank you for your letter and for your long-standing interest, because I know you have spoken with us on many occasions over the years about various polling places and precincts. Some of the precincts that you identified, some of them were very strangely shaped, to say the least, and cross major roadways, and I know that was part of the concern, and I realize that some of that could be a function of us, and some of that could be a function of redistricting from some past redistricting, or or something else. And I know we don't need that for right now, but I personally would find it helpful if there's any history attached to some of the shapes of those precincts and why they cross major roadways. It would be helpful to know that, because it could very well be that whatever reason there existed before may not exist anymore. And that may be premature, because obviously we're going to have a lot on our plate once redistricting is done for all of the different districts. But it would be helpful to have information of that kind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naiman. I appreciate that. And all these precinct shapes predate my service, so I just, you know, without having researched it further, just have to assume, like you do, this was, you know, created many years ago for reasons that no longer exist, you know, during a prior redistricting. So, you know, happy to work to uncover any other clues, but, you know, whatever reasons were, you know, don't seem to be there anymore.
If you uncover any other clue, please share it with us.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Election Director Status Report. Margaret?
Yes. The State Board of Elections, the poll book printer acquisition occurred, and an email was sent to the board members on Friday, October 8th. The winner of the procurement is Demtech. The staff is aware that the company has sold to some counties in Virginia, but no further information is available to us from the state. That said, I did direct Allison to make some inquiries related to that acquisition, and the new poll books will be implemented for the 2024 election, but not for the 2022 election. Allison, do you want to share with the board what you were able to find out about Demtech?
Sure.
And I want to clarify, it was the poll books, not the poll book printers.
Sure. Can you all hear me just fine? Okay, I'm just some distance from the microphone, so I wanted to make sure. I did make some inquiries, and what I discovered is that there are a number of counties in Virginia, in fact, a good majority of them, that use the Demtech poll book. This use of this equipment dates back over a decade in Virginia. It is also, from what I'm told, used in at least 2 other states, in Connecticut and in Massachusetts at the present time. We do not have any official information from the state board about the implementation, the configuration of this. My understanding is that generally speaking, this is a system that uses commercial off-the-shelf hardware, and so it would be a matter of implementing this software solution on top of some sort of tablet configured as the state would choose to roll this out to us. So it's not a new company. It is used in at least 3 states and in most of the state of Virginia, from what I have been able to uncover at this point.
That's it?
That's all I have, yes.
Thank you very much. Any question?
Madam President?
No.
Yes, Mr. Vincent.
Who was it?
Mr. Vincent has a question.
Alex? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Madam President, I just was going to ask Margaret and or Allison, did you all have any familiarity with the Demtech equipment before the procurement? Did you have any preference about what kind of, or what vendor you would have liked to use or anything like that? Or did this kind of, did you have any input in the process at all?
No, we did not have any input in the process. That was controlled by the state because it is a state procurement. They did have a procurement committee that was made up of some local boards of elections, as well as individuals from the State Board of Elections and the State Procurement Office.
That's it. We don't have any. Yes. Go ahead, Margaret.
Had you been familiar with Demtech at all before or heard of it? Anything like that?
I have not. Allison?
I have not either.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody else? Thank you. Budget.
Okay, the poll book printer allocation, the state has informed us that they will send 1,275 additional printers, which is going to supplement the 154 that we received in 2020. That will be a total of 1,429 printers that'll be available for elections in 2022. The county was asked if they had a preference on how they wanted to pay for that, and the county Office of Management and Budget informed us that they will pay the entire amount this fiscal year. So that bill will be paid this fiscal year. The state board also advised the local boards that the facilities that will have drop boxes must have 24/7 camera surveillance in order to capture data and store it. Montgomery County was allocated 46 drop boxes in 2020. The board has 3 pedestal drop boxes, plus the traditional drop box that we've had in front of the building since we've been here. And we also can borrow the City of Rockville drop box. The staff has not been advised if there's going to be an increase in the number of allocated drop boxes and, or the cost of the additional drop boxes if Montgomery County should choose to add any further drop boxes. So we have been advised that the cost of metal has gone up by 10%. And so, but no one has offered how the payment will occur, if it will be a 50-50 split, if the state board will pick up the entire cost, or the local boards would be expected to make that decision, to pay for it 100%. So that's the status of the drop boxes. Right now, it's still not a decision that needs to be made immediately. I would ask you to refer to the list that was distributed last month. The National Voter Registration Day generated some interest. The state board reported that there was an increase in traffic on their online application. And so we know that citizens are cognizant of the election and trying to keep track of their registration record and keep it current. And then the mock election, the state board has implemented new election systems. And so we've started getting ready for that. We received copies of the mock election ballot utilizing the precinct-based system. The ballot, there is 1,275 or 1,275 ballot faces. We started working on that last week and continue to work on it, and hopefully are going to wrap it up by Wednesday. The budget. Karen?
Before you go, I had a question.
Alan?
Margaret, about the drop boxes, any idea when the state board will give advice about the allocation of drop boxes?
We're going to bring that up on October 21st, the election directors meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Margaret.
No, the next thing is Kara, the budget. I believe the FY21 year-end transfer occurred. And do you want to address FY22? Okay. Kara, I'll just turn it over to you. Kara, we have no audio on you.
Okay, I'm able to speak now.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with the current budget. So we have officially entered the second quarter, and as expected, most of our expenditures continue to be in personnel cost. As of October 6th, we have only expended about 14%. And this is consistent with temporal spending during a year with the primary election. The first quarter in FY20 as a comparison, BOE spent approximately 16.7% of personnel funding. I'll just scroll down quickly. You all can see at the top personnel costs, about $631,000. Moving down to operating. So the department has spent approximately 4% of its operating budget as of October 6th. Again, consistent with spending in a primary election year. After the first quarter in FY20, the department's expenditures were approximately 3.8% of its approved operating budget.
Are there any questions at this time regarding the current budget year?
Can you tell us what that negative number is about?
I can. So the negative number represents a credit in that account line. A correction was made to move an incorrect charge. Unfortunately, my manual correction was posted quicker than a pending charge. So similar to your credit cards, when the charge is pending, it's the same thing that happens, and my manual correction was a little quicker.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Okay,
No,
then the final thing would be the build out related to this specific building. There was an emergency meeting of the budget committee, and the budget committee did allow the staff to include the costs related to the build out. This build out is to assist the staff in receiving all of the additional equipment that is coming to this facility. We are going to receive additional ballot marking devices. We're going to receive some additional poll book printers. We're also receiving some additional DS200s. We're also receiving black cards. Because of that, there becomes a significant space issue. Requires us to add more shelving as well as change some doors out. So staff is continuing to work with the Office of Management and Budget, reviewing these costs. We are answering their questions. We have emphasized with the Office of Management and Budget that if this is going to occur, it needs to occur and be completed by January 31st, when we expect delivery of some of the additional equipment that the state is sending to Montgomery County. The processes of review by the Department of General Services, as well as the cost estimates provided by, or cost specs provided by the proposed contractor, are those elements that are being reviewed. And this would include in some of the items that we had included with regards to the last budget supplemental request that occurred at the last board meeting. If you may recall, there was two different line items addressing the shelving. At this point, there's only one way for us to go, and that's up in the lower warehouse. And going up means more additional shelving, and it's a significant shelving. It has to have some serious weight to it because of the amount of equipment and the weight of that equipment that needs to be placed on those shelving units. Okay, going on.
Alan, do you have a question?
Hi, Margaret. Yeah, question. Has there been follow-up on my suggestion during the budget meeting to put into the contract the date when they would complete their work into the contract?
Yes, yes, it's very clear that it needs to be done by January 31st.
And to begin when?
Well, it can't begin until the county agrees to pay for it. So OMB is well aware of the time constraints we are under. And we are working with OMB and the Department of General Services. Allison, do you want to jump in here about the decision memorandum that we're trying to achieve?
Sure. Yeah, I will just add that a decision memo has been circulated in draft form for staff review between our department, the Department of General Services, and the Office of Management and Budget, which would ultimately require the CAO's signature on it. At this time, and that decision memorandum makes very clear the timeline involved. At this time, the Department of General Services and the Office of Management and Budget are conferring on cost elements, contract process elements, and that would all need to proceed entering into a final contract.
Thank you, Alison. Any other question? Alex, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
I think
Alex?
David has a question.
And David too. Alex first and then...
Alex first.
Yeah, Madam President, I don't know if either Margaret or Alan can answer this. Did we have an anticipated period of performance? How long it would take to complete the work in terms of days?
We've been advised that it could take up to 12 weeks.
Okay. All right. Not a moment to lose then.
David?
Right.
I know that I'm more in Alex's area of expertise than mine, but I guess the question is whether the contract itself needs to have a completion date in it. I understand that you say that it's going to be made very clear in a decision memo, but I would think that if it is in fact a requirement for us that it be completed by the end of January, I'm wondering whether the contract should so state.
That will be up to the Department of General Services and Office of Management and Budget as they prepare the decision memo with the contract, as they enter it with the potential, it's Kleinden's, the landlord, that will be doing the work if that is the decision of the Department of General Services. This is a contract between the county and Kleinden's, because while we occupy this building, the rental agreement is between Montgomery County and Kleinden's. So we will certainly ensure that it's very clear to Kleinden's that we have to have this completed by January 31st. We've talked to Kleinden's, they understand that. They've been very cooperative as a landlord throughout all of the years that we've been here.
To the initial question, what we have at this time is a proposal that did not specify in writing the performance period, but yes, absolutely. Once we enter into an actual edited contract, then that it would certainly be my expectation that that would include language on the performance period.
I have another question.
Alan?
Will this require any evacuation by staff during the construction?
No, that can't happen.
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other question? Thanks, Margaret. Next.
Okay, the voting services positions are now being advertised. Well, the advertisement is down. Interviews are about to take place. And just for the record, all employees that work for the department, for this department, do have to have a security background check, as well as being fingerprinted per the State Board of Elections requirements. Website, Janet?
Janet?
Yes, I had to get unmuted. The website, we updated the website with the decisions from the last board meeting about early voting. And we are working with DTS behind the scenes to reformat some of the pages that just need to be updated and refreshed. And as we get closer to the election, we will work with TEBS, not DTS, TEBS on redesigning the website. Normally we wait to see what the hot issues are, and then we redesign the website. So that'll happen as probably around January that we'll redesign it.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Want to talk?
Hand is raised.
David?
Yes, could you please just tell us what DTS and TEBS stand for?
Janet? Do you want to talk about the name change?
Yeah, I had to wait for Jerry to unmute. Yeah. TEBS is technology. God, I don't remember. DTS no longer exists. They changed to TEBS.
I think it's technology. I think it's Technology and Enterprise Business Solutions or something
right.
like that.
I couldn't remember the second one.
So DTS is Department of something?
Department of Technology Services, but they changed to TEBS.
Old name, new name, same department.
Yeah, Technology and Enterprise
Technology,
Enterprise Business Solutions.
Business Solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Thank you, Janet. Margaret?
That's it for me. If I believe that the board attorney has an issue he wanted to bring before the board.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to, and for Ami and Alex, I'm going to send you an updated notebook of bylaws, but as
Thank you.
the election season begins, I wanted to remind you all of the bylaw under 4.2 on political activity and what disclosures need to be made at board meetings, and specifically under 4.2B3, A member may attend campaign fundraisers held by candidates, political parties, or ballot issue committees, provided the board member discloses this fact to the board and does not publicly indicate that he or she is a member of the Board of Elections. That's 3. And then 4 is a member may make campaign contributions to candidates or issues on the ballot in an election for which the member will be serving on the local board of canvassers, provided the member discloses the contribution at the next public board meeting of the date, amount, and recipient of the contribution. You may have recalled that our former president, Jim Shalleck, had an issue where he attended a fundraiser for the Republican Party. It was like a barbecue. And there was some question raised as to whether he was required to disclose that, that he attended that. I don't know if that was really what was intended by the bylaws, but I mean, that's what's currently required. And so if anyone, I'm not advocating that you do change it, but if anyone wants to propose an amendment with regard to participation at political party events, then that would need to be an amendment that we need to do moving forward. I know Diane, in my fleeting memory, gave an example of, well, if I'm going to donate to a senator in a race in Kansas or Iowa, why should I have to disclose that as a campaign contribution? So, you know, I'm reminding you of what your obligations are with regard to those disclosure requirements.
Mr. Karpinski, I had a question. So do you interpret this to mean that this is basically federal or state, nationwide, any fundraiser, any campaign contribution? Because I know Mr. Naiman had talked earlier about whether you had to disclose something that was in an election in Montgomery County, but do you interpret this to be much broader than that? No,
I think it's only campaign contributions on any candidate or question that will appear on the ballot. And one of the issues that when the amendment was being discussed that I specifically recall was, well, we had a recount between Love and Paul, and there would be a great deal of interest if you donated $15 to one of their campaigns as opposed to thousands of dollars, as to whether maybe you should recuse yourself from that recount. So no, it's only campaign contributions to candidates or to issues on the ballot. It's not to the party. That's what makes
fundraisers looks to be not so qualified, I guess.
Yeah, three is a little ambiguous. I don't know that it was necessarily meant to include campaign fundraisers that would include political parties. But it does right now. If there's any appetite to change it, it can be changed. But otherwise, certainly you can attend them. If you got to pay to attend a fundraiser, though, you would certainly need to disclose that. And if you attend a fundraiser for a political party, you have to disclose that.
David?
I have a couple of follow-up questions relating to the differences. We have 3 and 4, and I believe that we have another rule, although I'm trying to remember where it is, that we are not allowed to essentially attend these events for free. But it appears that 3 is much broader than 4. 4 is talking about, as Kevin just said, contributions to candidates or issues that are on the ballot for which we're serving on the board of canvassers. So that's pretty much contributions to something that will be on the Montgomery County ballot. For 3, it seems to say that you can attend first of all, it says campaign fundraiser, and I'm curious as to whether that's meant to be somehow limiting, because there could be a fundraiser held by a political party that's not necessarily related to a campaign, or you could argue that political parties are always related to campaigns. But then it also says fundraisers held by candidates, political parties, or ballot issue committees. It doesn't say for which the member will be serving on the local board of canvassers. So I'm guessing that that may be where the question that Kevin said that Diane raised comes in, because if I read that correctly, if I give a contribution to a Senate candidate in another part of the country, it's not in Maryland, the contribution itself is not reportable. But if I do it at an event where, you know, there's an event, let's say there's an event in this area for someone who is running somewhere else, and I go and attend the event, it appears that this rule says that that has to be disclosed. And that's what I'm trying to get my head around. And it also appears, again, with the political parties, I was required to disclose my attendance. I was not required to disclose my contribution. But then also the political parties have lots of different organizations. You know, is the National Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee and the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, are those political parties? You know, because they clearly are associated with political parties, but they're not the actual party organization, I guess, technically.
Yeah, I think 3 is not very clear.
Yeah,
That's part of the problem.
that's the problem.
And I know everyone is very cautious to make sure that they're following all the rules, and so maybe we need to clean up the language in 3 to reflect what the board really intended here.
If you go with somebody, how about that?
What's the board's feeling on that?
I would just add one thing about that procedurally, which is that under our bylaws, we are required to introduce, discuss, amend any bylaws change, and then vote on it at the next meeting.
That's correct.
So my own personal preference would be that we have some time to think before we start introducing motions, so that we can accomplish that in a more thoughtful way, because you know, we've already all experienced that there's like a lot of different permutations to consider here.
Well, that's correct, David, and that's why I just brought it up as a discussion item, because the board couldn't take any action on this now, but between now and next month, you could think about perhaps how the language could be clearer and reflect what I think the board actually intended when we did the amendments back in 2019. And obviously, I can propose some language as well that the board could then consider.
Well, and the board membership has changed, so it's also possible that the board's views could go in any direction from where it was before.
Correct.
Right.
So, Kevin, would it help us to use you as a clearinghouse if we come up with a specific proposal?
Yeah, that would be fine. Why don't you do that, and then the next month we can the board can discuss how it wants to proceed. But yeah, all these bylaw changes, they take several meetings to get passed. So this is just, I was looking up because someone had asked a question regarding political activity, and when I looked at these sections 3 and 4 again, I was reminded of that question that Jim had where there was some ambiguity as to exactly what he did and whether it was something he had to disclose. And I think 4 is crystal clear. I think 3 is less than crystal clear as to what's really intended.
And Mr. Karpinski, was it your recollection that the event that Mr. Shalek attended was somewhere outside of Montgomery County?
No, it was an event in Montgomery County for the Montgomery County Republican Party. It was a barbecue out by someone who's got a beautiful pool. I don't know whose pool it was. I saw a picture of it, but it was just a local, little fundraiser for hamburgers and hot dogs by a pool. But then he said, well, I didn't think we had to disclose that. And I looked at this and I said, well, this is not really clear, so I would err on the side of disclosing it, which he did. And again, we're not talking about a major contribution, but he was just concerned that he wasn't doing what's required under the bylaws.
And would you say that if you pay for a ticket to attend a fundraiser, you also have made a campaign contribution?
Well, yeah, I think you have.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the kicker here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that goes on to the web as making a campaign contribution.
It does, yes. Yeah. So.
How about if we go with somebody? If I go with my husband and he pay, I'm the guest, or my boyfriend or girlfriend.
Well, that also gets into the issues of, now he'd raised the issue of when a spouse or someone else buys a ticket for you. I think there's a different section that talks about people buying tickets for you as a board member. I don't think it applies to a spouse, but I think it does apply to anyone else offering you a free ticket. I know it applies to anyone else offering you a free ticket. So, Alan, did you have a question?
Well, just that as you or David mentioned, once a proposal is made, once a motion is made to amend the bylaws, we're locked in to a full discussion at that meeting. At the next meeting, it's an up or down, accept or reject the change. Isn't that correct, Kevin?
That's correct.
So, I mean, I would advocate no proposal today, no motion today. Any motion should come at the next meeting.
Oh, there couldn't be a motion today. By operation of the rules, it would have to be introduced at the next meeting, considered, and then voted upon at the next meeting. So this is not something that's going to get addressed immediately.
And I'm wondering, do we even really have to? We're talking about the next meeting and the meeting after that, but I'm thinking we don't have to be pinned down to doing this in the next two sessions.
No.
We're at the beginning of a biennial.
No, not at all. It just caught my eye because I was looking at something else and I thought I would at least raise it as an issue.
The only limitation is that we have to follow the rule until we change it. So
right.
If the rule bothers us a lot, then we have to do it faster.
Correct.
Yeah, Kevin, I have another question. What if I were to attend a fundraiser for a candidate and the candidate comped me and I didn't pay any money? I may attend it and without indicating I'm a member of the board. That's 3. I don't need to report it.
Yeah, but there's a different rule, Alan, that says you can't accept a free ticket. I don't have it in front of me, but I can send it to you. I'll cite it to you.
Okay. I haven't done it, but just wondering.
Yeah. I mean, I know there have been plenty of occasions where members have had to turn down free, a free ticket to go to a particular event.
Funny, I remember that rule, but I'm having trouble finding it now, and I'm wondering whether we changed it.
I don't see it.
But whatever the case, it would be good to know.
Okay, I'll make a note to make sure that I don't think it was changed, but I will make a note. I think it falls under a different section regarding other activities. But I'll go ahead and take a look at that, and if anyone has any proposed changes, then you can just let me know.
Yeah, I see it, Kevin. We'll have to go way back here. 5. This is in the code. Section 5.05, 5-05, C2, 1, paren 1, paren 8. That's where the tickets are free admission.
It's in the section talking about tickets and political signs and all a bunch of other things.
Mm-hmm.
No, but those are exceptions to gifts, no? Oh, I see. The exceptions do not apply to those things. All right, if you can let us know. That
yeah, I'll let you know. Mm-hmm. The only other thing I had was, obviously redistricting is on the forefront of everyone's thoughts these days. The charter actually does address redistricting under section 104 and the procedure that's going to be followed. 3 maps have been put forth by the Redistricting Commission, which they will make a final decision on October 20, with a final vote on their report to be submitted to the council on November 3. So that's the current timetable. and they will be submitting one map for the council's consideration.
This is for councilmanic districts only?
Correct. Correct. So, but that's the timetable. The next event will be October 20, and then November 3 will be their final report and vote. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, now we are straight. Be sure, don't donate. Make life easy. All right. New business.
Hello.
Margaret.
Yes, the first is the potential selection of alternate early voting centers. We are only required to provide 2 locations, and based on the new criteria for early voting centers, the 2 that meet the most, meet the requirements would be the East County Community Rec Center. It is in a highly populated area. It's served by public transit. It serves a disenfranchised community, and it serves the East County area. Then we have the Upper County Community Recreation Center. Again, it is on a major roadway with public transit that is available continuously. It also serves a densely populated area, as well as it is close to portion of that area is close to a area that is basically our Section 203, another disenfranchised, historically disenfranchised community. My recommendation to the board is that since we are moving to 14 early voting locations, to select only 2 alternate early voting centers. These are the traditional 2 that you have chosen in the past.
Thank you, Margaret. Question? David, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Margaret, you indicated that we are only required to provide 2. Is there anything that prevents us from providing more?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. In my mind, the fact that we have more early voting sites is not a reason to have fewer alternates. It's actually a reason to have more alternates. I think that, and I realize Nahid and I had a brief personal conversation about this. Neither of us can remember the alternate sites being used during our tenure on the board, and she has been here longer than I. But if we were to have that eventuality happen and one of our sites were to be unavailable, we would presumably want to have an alternative that is reasonably likely to serve the population of the site that's not available. So that, for example, if the Silver Spring Civic Building were for some reason not available, adding the Upper County site would be of limited value to the residents of downtown Silver Spring. And really the same thing could be said for the East County site. So I was wondering if any thought had been given. I had asked previously, and we have used previously at I don't remember which election it was, but we did use the Long Branch Community Center as an alternate site for some of our elections during the time I've been on the board. And I've heard conflicting things about its availability. I saw online today that the new homeless shelter where the people who are currently at the Long Branch Center are going to be relocated is scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. And I know that there are repairs and such that are scheduled for the Long Branch Center that are scheduled to be completed in March. So I guess what I'm asking is there any harm to adding it to our list of alternates and then making any decisions about which alternate to use if the occasion should arise. And then if the occasion arises, and for example, if the construction is not completed, we would use one of our other sites. But if it is available, it would then have been approved to use.
I've talked to the Director of Recreation with regards to Long Branch just this morning, and there is considerable concern as to whether or not that facility will be closed as a shelter and moved to the new location on the timeline that you're discussing. The board can certainly ask that the Long Branch location be utilized, but you need to keep in mind that, particularly in the primary, there's a finite amount of space for parking, and there's a swimming pool there, and you will, it will be very, very difficult for individuals to have access to that location. But if the board chooses to add Long Branch, the staff will work with Recreation to see what they will permit, or if they will permit it.
Thank you, Margaret. I would suggest that we do that, and I have a number of reasons for that, in addition to what I just said. The site, board members who are on the board in June may remember that we had a rather lengthy discussion about some of the issues with the executive office building as an early voting site and its and the size of its room. The social hall at the Upper County Community Center is smaller than the executive office building auditorium. The number of parking spaces there is, I believe, on the chart 55 compared to 70 some at the Long Branch Center. The number of bus lines that are serving it are far greater in Long Branch. And again, I think that it's quite possible that we would need to have different alternates in different parts of the county in order to adjust for whichever site is not available. So I would suggest that we add it to our list. I also would point out that a few elections ago, I don't remember exactly which year it was, but there was a lot of concern about whether the driveway at the executive office building was going to be, the construction was going to be completed in time for election day. And I believe it was completed with a day or two to spare, which has obviously made us sweat a bit. But sometimes when there's a will, there's a way. And I would think that this would be a situation where it would be helpful for us to have an additional alternate site.
Margaret?
Yes, Madam President.
Do you have?
The board can select however many alternate sites they choose to. If they wish to add East County, Upper County, and Long Branch, we'll certainly try to make that happen. We're just trying to be prepared so that we can get the paperwork ready for the State Board of Elections and coordinate so that the MOUs that Kevin needs to initiate between here and the county can get started. So if that's what you choose to do, if we could have a vote, that's what the staff needs, the designations.
I would move to do what Margaret just said, to choose those three as our alternates.
I'd second that.
So the three locations would be the East County Community Recreation Center, the Up County Community Recreation Center, and the Long Branch Community Center. And these would all be the social halls.
The Long Branch is available now?
Well, not according to the Recreation Director, but we will find out.
Where is it located again?
On Piney Branch Road between University Boulevard and Flower Avenue.
Silver Spring.
It's in Silver Spring, Alex. Any other discussion? We already have a vote and the second too. That's it? Those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, he was voting.
Yeah. Opposed? Okay then, we have them, Margaret. Let's see what's happening if we can get the
Okay.
long branch. Thank you.
May I ask one more question about early voting sites? please?
2 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I can do it in one.
Okay.
Margaret, am I correct that the plan as regards White Oak, Wheaton, and Bauer Drive is that we would be using the social hall for the primary and the gym for the general election?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
No
We'll
more?
use the social halls. You know, I can resend the list as to what the staff recommended. But the desire was, as explained by Robin Riley at the July board meeting, was to make as many gyms available, specifically in those targeted areas.
Right, and but the gyms are available for
For
November.
the general,
For
for
general
the general election.
Right.
That is correct.
Yes.
And my understanding is that I know the recreation department was very helpful to us in the 2020, all of us, the 2020 election. My understanding is that they also may be able to assist us with line management in some of these places that have social halls to make those go smoothly for the primaries in 2022, which I think would help us a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to work with recreation and try to get some of those young adults or young teens to somehow, either if they don't want to be future vote, work through the recreation program.
That sounds great. I'll just tell you, as one who got both of my COVID shots at the Wheaton Rec Center, there was probably a line manager every 3 steps or so, and it really did make a difference. It did make the line move, and I think it helped people to get in and out much more quickly.
Thank you, David. Done.
Okay. The next one is the polling place presentation for 2022. Lisa, are you going to? Yes. Okay, so we presented this in June after, in June at the June board meeting, and this is an enhanced version of this. In 2020, we had 11 early voting sites plus 40 vote centers. Now we're going back to the traditional election in which we'll have early voting centers as well as now 14 early voting sites. So the first one that we're going to come up to is Lux Manor. Lux Manor is a polling place in which we are returning to the original home precinct. We were at B'nai Israel while Lux Manor was demolished and then reconstructed. If you go to the next screen, our intent is to return it to the home precinct. They have a brand new school. It is of no cost to the county Board of Elections. It is at 6201 Tilden Lane. Most of the neighbors have seen it. They're very excited about it. We plan on using the all-purpose room. It has outstanding accessible parking. The no electioneering is designated in the next slide. So you'll see the voter entrance, the all-purpose room, accessible parking. There's the no electioneering zone. The next location is Tilden Middle School. The old middle school was torn down. We have a beautiful new Tilden Middle School. Basically, we're just moving to the new Tilden Middle School. Again, it's a very lovely building with lots of new parking. The entrance will be the main entrance. We will again be using 410 and 418. We'll be using the cafeteria to vote in. Large room, very exciting about that. It has excellent accessible parking, and we have the no electioneering zone. The next one is Burnt Mills Elementary School. This is a school that's also going to be demolished beginning January 6th of 2022. we'll shift it to Springbrook High School. Springbrook High School is the adjoining precinct. The demolishment of that facility, I believe, is January 6th. And we will have everyone voting in the high school together in those two precincts. The next precinct is 516, Stonegate Elementary. Stonegate Elementary will be demolished on March 1st, 2022. We will shift that to James Blake High School. That is within the precinct. We will have everyone voting in the same room as we are at other locations. And you can see the no electioneering zone here. The next location is Dufife Elementary School. That's scheduled to be demolished on January 22nd. We are going to recommend shifting that to the Nancy Jasek Potomac Rec Center. Again, this is obviously one of our early voting centers. It's ADA compliant, great accessibility. We plan to use the social hall in this facility. You can see the no electioneering. The next one is South Lake Elementary School. Again, this is a school that's going to be demolished, and we're recommending moving to the Gaithersburg Library. This is very much a walkable community. I happen to live in this neighborhood. Everyone knows where the library is. The library is on several transit routes. It's in precinct. It is a public facility. It's a good room size. It is upstairs in the community room, which is meetings rooms 1 and 2. I have attended meetings there. There's a lot of great space. There's an elevator and stairs that are accessible for the public to utilize. And it will be just while the school is under construction. There's also great accessibility of parking, plenty of parking, but like I said, there's a lot of people that walk in that neighborhood. The next one is Potomac Elementary School. This is again a situation where we utilize the Potomac Presbyterian Church. We are now returning to Potomac Elementary School. The school is done with its reconstruction. We plan to return there. We will be using the all-purpose room. This is a picture of the voting entrance. Lots of parking, as always. We'll use the all-purpose room, as I mentioned. You'll see there's the handicap accessibility parking, the no electioneering zone. And like I said, there's also plenty of parking. The next location is Woodland Elementary School, which is also going to be demolished in January of 2022. Alan Banoff had suggested several locations. We were able to get the Imam Center to agree to allow us to use their facility. I'd like to thank Alan for his suggestion, and I also want to thank the Imam Center because they were a little afraid when they heard about us, but they are open to having us there. The vote center entrance will be on this door. There's 56 plus parking spaces, but it is within the precinct. Am I correct? And there will be the no electioneering at that facility. So you'll be able to see that. And we believe that it will serve our purposes while the school is being reconstructed. The next location is Parkland Middle School. We're going to move to Brookhaven Elementary, which is right across the street. Again, this is a facility that's going to be demolished. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the one with the addition. I apologize. And we have 54 parking spaces. And we'll be using the all-purpose room. And the next pictures should show you the accessible parking as well as the no electioneering zone. Very close to what you can enter. Finally, we have the Sligo Creek Elementary School, which originally we moved for the 2020 election, but because of the 2020 election, while we did send information out to the voters of Sligo Creek Elementary, we never did. Everyone ended up voting at the Silver Spring Civic Center. We're just returning everyone to the Sligo Creek Elementary School location. And so this is a return to the home precinct, and this is where your electioneering zone is. Those are the proposed polling place changes that we are recommending. And most of them, all of them are because of school. The school is going to be demolished, or we're returning the polling place to its original home precinct. Are there any questions?
Alice?
Yes. Do we have any photos of the inside of the Imam Center, or do we have a floor plan or any additional information the way we do with some of the others where the photos or the floor plan or something that gives us a sense of what the inside is like?
Yes, we do.
It would be helpful if we could see that.
Okay.
Yes, we can. Alan?
Question, will the voting be in the basement of the Imam Center?
Yes, it's ground level.
Oh, it's ground level. Okay.
The entrance would be where the door is, where you walk in. Can you go backwards and show that picture, Lisa?
Give me a second.
David, your question is the same?
No.
They will walk directly into the room. They will walk directly into the room from the street.
Yeah.
What building?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
They will
Good,
walk
okay.
directly into the room. Barbara Sanders says it's a large room at ground level used by community civic groups, and it's almost full size. Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, it would be helpful to, obviously, to have that, more information about that room.
Okay.
That wasn't the reason for raising my hand.
David, you have question?
Yes, I have a question. Can we go back to the pictures for Tilden Middle School?
Hold on. The Imam question is done. No more question? No.
I think all we wanted about the Imam Center was to get information about the inside.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so for Tilden Middle School, you labeled that as returning to the home precinct, but obviously it is a new building, like you said, and it's Tilden Middle School before was in an old high school building, so it was much larger. Tilden Middle School now is was built as a middle school. I had a couple of questions about this. Margaret, you said, and I'm not sure if I understood. Can we go back to the pictures, please? The voter entrance where that arrow is not the front entrance where the picture is.
That's correct.
In other words, the picture is actually right. The activities entrance is the entrance that where the voter arrow.
That's correct.
Was pointed, and what's in front of that is the bus lanes. The parking is actually in front of the front entrance to the building. As you can see from that aerial view, there's a pretty significant difference from the parking, and it's not only a distance from the parking, but the entrance is actually on a different street. The entrance for the voter entrance that you have marked is on Marcliffe Road. The entrance for the parking is on Tilden Lane. And I guess what I'm trying to understand is if there was a theory behind using the entrance that you're talking about, where you expect parking to actually be located, and what can be done to make sure that voters, and if they don't have middle school age children, they may not be familiar with the new building, if they're going to know where it is that they're supposed to park, and where it is that they're supposed to enter, and where it is that handicapped would be able to park in order to not have to go a long distance in order to get to the entrance.
David, if it's a
Okay,
new building,
one-
hold on, Margaret. When it's a new building, I'm sure they think about all those things which you talk. I'm sure they will talk about the handicap because it's a much newer building than it was before. So
Well,
they would
Okay,
do that
what-
as a construction.
I'm sure they would, and I would like to understand the thinking. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to drop this over to Mary Beth, who's been working with Chris, who's not available to help us answer some of these questions. But Mary Beth, would you like to address how the operations side was going to address the handicap accessibility as well as how the directional information?
I mean, the reason we chose the voter entrance on the side of the building is because the cafeteria is just inside that door on the left. The walk from that door to the cafeteria is probably less than 25 feet. So from the front door to the cafeteria is quite a long walk. There are 2 accessible parking spaces right there on that activity center entrance, but we can always designate additional temporary handicap parking.
Okay, my next question is that the last time we used the Tilden Middle School that has been demolished on Old Georgetown Road, and we had 2 precincts, I think the same 2 precincts were in that building, that are now proposed to be in this building. We had 1 precinct in the cafeteria and 1 precinct in the gym. And it seems like...
And that was a disaster. That was a disaster. And so I decided, consulting with Janet, that the best process to make sure that people don't stand in one line and end up in the wrong precinct is to combine those 2 precincts into one room and handle it just as we do at Bethesda High School, where we have all of the voting equipment in one room. Everyone uses the same poll books. They check in. Once they determine which precinct they belong to, they walk over to the 410 side or they walk over to the 418 side. They grab their ballots, but none of the confusion that occurred in 2018 will occur this go around. And it's the same jurisdictional makeup. Well, it is right now until redistricting.
Right.
So we do not, the separating into 2 different rooms is a bad decision. If people end up standing in the wrong line, they get upset, they get very frustrated, and they may walk out of the room without voting.
Yes, Margaret,
Okay,
I remember that, yes.
So how many precincts do we have where we are putting 2 precincts in one room? And do we have any other precincts where we're putting 2 precincts in 2 rooms?
We have no precincts that are going to be in separate rooms. And any precinct that's required to, there's 3, I believe, right now that are in this grouping. Bethesda High School is 1 precinct that always has been voting in the same room. Dasic will have 2. Springbrook will have 2. Blake will have 2. James Blake High School.
So all of those situations are where we're combining 2 precincts, we're putting them in one place, and we're going to distinguish between precincts after people are essentially going to check in. You're going to figure out where they are, and they're going to get assigned. They're going to get the proper ballot style for their home precinct, but it's going to be in one location, not in 2.
Correct.
Okay, and then my other question about Tilden is that I wonder whether is the cafeteria larger or smaller than the gym, and is there a reason why you chose the cafeteria and not the gym?
The gym floor. Whether the school system is not really excited about us putting all of our equipment all over the gym floor.
Has the school system said that in this instance?
In not this specific instance, they have in the other locations.
But we definitely prefer that we use cafeterias where we can. Yeah.
Can I get an answer, and I don't need it at this minute, but could we be informed about the square footage of the cafeteria compared to the square footage of the gym? Because if we're putting two precincts together in a middle school building, and of course middle school gyms are smaller than high school gyms, and middle school cafeterias are smaller than high school cafeterias, it would be useful to know what that situation is. Oh, and the question about the directional information, because it appears that, I mean, what's going to happen is that if we send postcards to people and we tell them that they are voting at Tilden Middle School, and they set their GPS for Tilden Middle School, they're going to be directed to the parking lot that is on Tilden Lane, whereas the entrance is on Markcliff Road. And I guess my question is do you have any plans for how to address that situation? Because if you are driving there, you actually have to enter in a different location.
We always put additional signage when we have new polling places as to where the entrance is. So yes, our plan would be always to work with the Department of General Services and Community Use of Public Facilities to put the signage as to where the polling locations is, or where the entrance to the polling location is.
Okay, and in this instance, it sounds like it might be the handicap parking at one entrance and the regular parking at a different entrance.
There is some designated handicap parking at that activities door.
Right, in the bus lane. But in terms of regular parking, the regular parking lot is is closer to the front door because it's a bus lane. Now, hopefully there'll be no buses on election day because school's closed.
Right.
But I don't know whether we plan to have people parking in the bus lane other than handicapped, or if the idea is that the handicap parking will be near that entrance and others can park in the regular parking.
Last question.
Would be a combination. We would add additional handicap parking at the entrance of the polling location, and we could certainly add temporary parking in the bus lanes because you are correct, schools are not open, as well as having the handicap parking that's in the regular parking space as well as the other locations.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Elise?
I think Diane's hand was before mine.
No, your hand was before Diane, but between you two, one of you start talking.
Elise.
Okay, I want to go back to 5-05. The district is shaped like a bat. It's very strange. And the Burnt Mills School was sort of right in the middle of the bat, but now I'm just wondering, I think they're now at Springbrook, and it seems very far from the part of the bat wing that's adjacent to 503. So I'm wondering if there were other locations that might have been considered that might have been a little closer, or I don't know, it might be more convenient for the folks who live on the right part of the bat wing.
The only thing I will say is that 0505 and 0522 had been together at Springbrook High School until 2018. So we had just pulled them apart for one election cycle. So actually the people from 505, I think, will be happy to go back to 522 because the room is much bigger, and there are more voters actually in 505 than 522. So it's better spacing at Springbrook High School.
Okay.
Thank you. Diane?
Yeah, my my comment goes to the discussion about using a cafeteria versus the gym. I know there are various serious considerations about space allocation, but I remember a year and a half ago or so when we were talking about locations, and in order to use gyms, we had a discussion about the flooring that needed to put down, which was extremely expensive. And I just want to make sure that if we ever get in those discussions, I would prefer not to incur extra costs for something like that when we weigh all the options.
Okay.
That's the point, yes. Margaret will think about it. Any other question? No?
Okay.
David, you don't have any question?
Yeah, actually I do, but thank you, Nahid, for reading my mind. I'd like to go back to the Burnt Mills question, because I understand that they may have been at Springbrook before, but one of the criteria that we always are looking at is, and that I think was mentioned for some of the other precincts, is the ability of people in the precinct to walk to the polls. And I'm just wondering whether any of the polling places in the surrounding precincts in 510, 513, or 56 are walkable for for the folks who are in the Burnt Mills precinct, because it appears that walking to Springbrook High School would be a pretty significant walk.
Well, David, since most of the people drive to the polling place, it's not something we looked at initially, but I can certainly direct staff to look at what is available at 513, 516, 1320, 1333, 1311, and 510.
No, I was not including 1311, 1333, and 1320. Northwest Branch is in between Burnt Mills and those neighborhoods. I actually grew up in 1311. So I'm very familiar with this area. I was talking about the ability to walk to the polls, which you mentioned for 13-7, where the Imam Center is. I just was thinking that we should consider that possibility for the people in this precinct in 5-5. So yes, if you could look at if there are walkable options for 5-6, 5-10, and 5-13. I know the White Oak Library is there somewhere. I know that there are also polling places for each of those precincts at 513 Community Center, and I believe that 510 is at Crest Haven, and I don't remember where 5-6 goes. But if I think that the point that Elise made about the distance, I mean, think about the people who are at the far eastern extreme of 5-5. They're pretty far away from Springbrook High School.
I would just like to interject and note here too that everything that we're presenting here today is preliminary, because we do still have redistricting to come in between now and when we would be asking you to make a final vote. And so it may very well be that we will end up with boundaries that look different and box us in a little bit differently in this Batwing area when you get to the point of a final vote.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Margaret?
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
Does the board choose to have us move on any of these changes? For instance, the Amman Center?
Margaret, I think it's the Imam Center that you most need guidance on, correct? Because that's the one where we're actually, we need to make arrangements with a private facility to pursue it, correct?
Yes, we must enter an MOU, insurance, to get the sign off by all the necessary in accordance to procurement rules.
How soon can we get the information that Elise requested about the inside of that building?
Okay, we can lay this over till next month.
Right. So they're not moving? All right.
Well,
So there'll be
Madam President,
Yes,
is there any reason why we could not move on the suggested changes that there's really been no questions about? Would that make sense? I don't know if that would help staff, but it seems to me the only places that have any doubt are maybe 5-5. And I mean, is there any sense that we would not use the Amman Center? I mean, Mr. Banoff suggested it. I assumed he had vetted it. Yes, it would be nice to know what the inside looks like, but is there a realistic alternative? I haven't heard one.
That's a good point.
There's no alternative.
I will say, first of all, Mr. Banoff did not vet it. Mr. Banoff simply gave suggestions after a board meeting, and I have no problem with it, but I do have a problem with our approving of it's the only one in the whole list where we haven't seen even a schematic of the room. We don't know how large it is. We don't, we're really operating in the blind here. Now, in my opinion, we don't have to wait a month in order to, in order to act upon it. If somebody has any of that information, they could send us by email right now. We could vote on it within the next half hour. But I do think it's a
One moment. We can make arrangements that'll go downstairs and try to find the picture.
Okay, then we can do that. We can go continue with our business and come back when we have the picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they do need time to sign the contract and do all the paperwork. So we cannot just continue saying, okay, we will do it next year, we will do it tomorrow. Let's do that. What I suggest, we continue until Margaret finds the other information which the board wants. Okay? Good enough? All right.
Good. Thank you.
Your old business. Do we have any old business? Anybody have old business wanted to discuss? Yes, Margaret.
Just wanted to, with regards to the District 18 letter, the staff recommendation is to lay that over until all the precinct lines are changed with the redistricting of school board, county council, legislature, and congressional district. And that the staff is, and Allison is leading the redistricting team, and she will be cognizant of those changes that have been requested by the District 18 leadership.
Right. I will ask Kevin to prepare a letter and send it to them and explain our situation. Thank you, Margaret.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
I have no problem with anything Margaret just said about the District 18 letter. It's obviously difficult to make any of those decisions right now. I guess my question is, how do we make decisions on any of these precincts right now, given that we don't know? I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I don't have any clue as to where any of these lines are going to be drawn.
We are not making any decision.
Okay, but if we're going to be making precinct decisions, for example, about 13-7, and admittedly, I don't know that there's any reason to believe that 13-7 is going to be divided in half or anything like that, but it certainly would not be unprecedented for precinct boundaries to change as a result of whatever happens in redistricting. And I guess maybe this is a question for Kevin. If we sign a memorandum of agreement or some kind of an agreement with the Imam Center, and then we have some kind of a change that affects that, what happens?
Well, the only one we would be signing, we need to sign an MOU with for election day voting are any private facilities. So, yeah, I mean, theoretically, if we decided we weren't going to use it at some point, then we may actually have to pay them for, even though we're not going to use it. But I think the staff's point is that having evaluated what's in the area, there really aren't any other viable options. So it's going to be used in some form or fashion, whether it's that particular precinct or not. That area needs a polling place, and there are no good viable options in that area.
Okay, but in terms of what Alex had suggested about we could approve some of the things that we don't have controversy about, it sounds like there's not an urgent need as long as they are in public buildings to do that yet, because the situations can change.
That's correct.
But for the private buildings, I understand what you're saying. We want them to be committed, because the last thing we would want is not to have an option, and this is one that's within walking distance.
Correct.
The other piece of this is that we do need particularly where we're going back to a location we weren't able to use. We need to try to make sure that we have those facilities reserved. That's the only reason. But again, though, the board can certainly lay this over until next month. We're just trying to make sure that we have enough polling places for the 2022 elections. And obviously, we're looking at those public facilities that we can utilize at no cost.
Two things. Barbara Sanders, who lives in that precinct, says the Woodside Civic Association at the lower end of the precinct requested that the Imam Center be used, especially since the Cofield Center might also be under construction as far from the precinct. And you can't get to the Cofield Center from much of the precinct because the bridge, the Talbot Street Bridge has been removed. I have a question for you, Kevin. How long realistically does it take you to draft an MOU and deal with some center about it?
It varies from one to the other, and we have a new procurement process we have to go through with the county, where the county attorney's office has to review and approve all MOUs signed by the Board of Elections if it involves the payment of money. So I really honestly can't answer that question because that's a new process that we were never required to do before.
So you're suggesting that if we have to deal with like MLM Center or some private organization, we should start as soon as possible?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Is there a way for us to take a tentative action pending what we see in these photographs? And does that help you at all, Kevin? Because I understand the problem, and I've actually spent a lot of time walking in this precinct to look for locations myself. I understand the urgency. I just have a problem with kind of sight unseen approving it, but I have every expectation that once we get that information, we'll all be comfortable.
Well, you could certainly tentatively approve it, and I doubt, quite frankly, that an MOU will be executed between now and 30 days from now.
So can we approve it with the idea that you come back to us prior to final signature?
Yeah, that's not a problem. Because we'll need to sit down with them. We'll have to explain what, if it's a private location, you'll say, well, we have no electioneering. They're going to go, what's no electioneering? And then you're going to have to explain what's required and what they're going to have to put up with. And they have to, they're going to have political signs that a lot of private locations find distasteful. They don't want to go ahead and put, so you got to explain the whole process through what's required under the election law article. And then that's the first go round. And then you got to prepare the MOU. Then they have to review it and have to approve it. The county attorney's office has to review it and approve it. And then when all that's said,
insurance.
Then you got to get insurance. And by the time all that's said and done, that's more than 30 days. So
I'm certainly comfortable with proceeding as long as there's an opportunity, for us to make a final approval later in the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
Alex?
I used to live in this neighborhood, and I understand the difficulty of finding a place. I used to vote at Woodland. So, again, it was just not seeing any sort of pictures of the inside that made me a little bit uncomfortable, that's all.
Alex?
But Madam President, if we were to say no to this, what are the alternatives, practically speaking?
Margaret?
That's an excellent question, and I don't have an alternative.
There are other. Were the other facilities that Alan brought up, were those looked into as well?
Yes, and they said no.
There you go.
Are there no photos?
Mary Beth, have you got that file to Lisa yet?
Mary Beth is not on and I don't have it yet.
Okay.
Can we go on to approval of minutes?
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Staff has actually seen the side room where the polling would take place. Is that right?
Yes. Mary Beth is trying to get the photos. Approximately 2,500 square feet is what she verbally stated to me. And I'm trying to look at her notes. But we're kind of in a difficult situation in that area.
Okay, the of my objections.
Just
Can we just,
I move we accept
Madam
it.
President,
Yes.
could we just move on to the minutes while we try to
Right.
find this?
Lisa is checking. What
photographs?
happened, Lisa?
With the minutes?
Hold on. Lisa's checking. What happened?
With what, the photos?
Uh-huh.
No, we're still waiting for the photos. to
Okay,
come.
they're still waiting, so we go to the other item, action item. Do we have any action item?
I just got it, hold on. We do have action items,
There
Ken.
Yes, my action item is draft a letter to the District 18 delegation regarding their letter.
That's good enough. Thank you, Kevin. All right then.
Margaret also said that she was going to bring up the, I believe it was the allocation of drop boxes at the directors meeting on October 21.
Yes,
Yes.
I will.
Okay.
And then we have the square footage for, square footage for.
Gym and cafeteria.
The
The
gym
gym
versus the
cafeteria.
social, yeah,
At Tilden Middle School.
at Tilden.
Okay. Any other?
I did get the photos. So
You got the-
whenever you're ready, we can go through the minutes and then go back to the photo?
No,
or
go
do it
ahead.
over
You
now?
have
Okay.
they have a.
Give me a second
go on.
here.
Get over it. Just 1 second. She's gonna.
Share my screen.
The photo is gone. Yes.
No, it's right here. I think everyone can see
Okay.
it.
Here is the Amount Center.
It's one photo. It's
That's-
one photo. This is this. This is the room.
That's a
Okay.
good room.
So it says 1,936 square feet. How does that compare to other precincts that we have for Election Day?
I don't have an answer for that, David.
They
How many voters are in this precinct?
They have the
moment.
drapery. They have the drapery on the back. I wonder if we can. What is in the back of it? We can open it and.
One
we can-
moment.
Okay. The drapery there.
And do we have?
It has 2,582 registered voters as of October 1 of 2021.
Okay.
That's not that large.
Yeah, are we also, do we have, are we required to have break rooms for our workers for Election Day?
We do try to arrange a break room for the election workers, yes. And we've already been advised that there are going to be certain dietary restrictions at that facility.
Right.
And I think somebody's trying to point out where the kitchen area is. Yeah.
The kitchen back there.
It's similar to Jewish custom.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
And Chris is stating there is going to be a separate election judge rest space.
Mr. Naaman, Mary Beth has also provided the Tilden Middle School gym square footage and the cafeteria square footage.
Okay, great.
So the gym is 6,500 square feet and the cafeteria is 5,940 square feet.
So I believe the cafeteria is good enough. You don't have to go extra expense to prepare the gym.
5,940
Right.
square feet.
So,
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
thank you. Minute, approval of the minute. Any other thing? September 18, 2021 public meeting.
Madam President,
Mr. Vincent? Alex?
I would move that the Board of Elections accept the minutes of the public hearing on September 18th, 2021 as edited by Mr. Banoff and Mr. Naaman.
I second it.
Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I have it. Thank you. September 2021 minute.
I would.
Alex?
Madam President,
Yes.
I would move that the Board of Elections accept the minutes of the September 20th, 2021 regular meeting as drafted by Ms. Marino and circulated to us earlier.
Second.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, David.
If a motion is necessary, I would move to postpone our consideration of these minutes until next month.
Why?
I'm not, because they were distributed to us on Thursday, and I don't believe that, I didn't know that there are several members of the board who have not had a chance to read them, including myself.
Including me.
Yes.
I don't know why was the trouble to read it. There's only 4 pages. You can read them in your sleep. What was the problem? They couldn't read it.
Do you want me to tell you about my whole life and everything else I'm doing at my job?
This is your opinion, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, I get your opinion.
No, Nahid, you just asked me. You said, what's the problem? The problem is that the board has told the staff that we want the minutes 10 days before the meeting, and instead we got it on a Thursday before a Monday meeting. And under those circumstances, sometimes we will be able to read them and act on them before the Monday meeting, and sometimes we will not. And the idea that because the staff sends it to us on Thursday, that we automatically are expected to complete our review of the minutes. As you know, we review the minutes pretty carefully. Not everyone does, and not everyone should have to. But the idea that when we get the minutes almost a week later than what our board policy calls for, that we're just going to approve them, and that what's wrong with us that we didn't read them in our sleep, I'm offended by that. If you want to approve the minutes, feel free. I will be voting against approving them if we don't postpone them until next month.
Alan?
Yeah, had I received these on Monday, last Monday, I could have reviewed them. Tuesday, I went out of town until last night. I've had no chance whatsoever to read them. I read them all very carefully, and I couldn't read these at all.
There's a motion on the floor. Okay. Alan, you finished? Ami, go ahead. Do you have something to say, Ami?
No, I just wanted to second the motion as it stands. I certainly had time to read the minutes over the weekend. I was okay with them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
I move to postpone discussion of these minutes until the next meeting.
I second the motion.
He's moving to
Point of order, Madam President, there is a motion already pending.
Yes, is a motion already on the floor?
A motion to postpone is in order when another motion is on the floor. There is no other way to postpone it.
Yes, I think David's correct.
Well, let me ask this. Would Mr. Naiman entertain the option if we approve the minutes as drafted, and if he finds that, or Mr. Banoff finds there are significant changes that need to be made, we could always move to amend them at the next meeting, and would that be acceptable?
No, it would not. It would be acceptable if we each had kind of personal crises, but the minutes came on time. The minutes have been coming later and later. And I understand Lisa has other things to do, but so do all of us. And the idea that it requires a motion in order to postpone it when we're given that amount of time. Like I said, I don't know that I should have to explain my personal business as to why I wasn't available this weekend to review the minutes to all of you and be on this recording for the rest of time. But I do have a 92-year-old parent who is in rehab who needs my assistance. And the idea that because the minutes arrive on Thursday afternoon on a work day, that I'm supposed to drop whatever I'm doing in order to do that. We have a process for this. The board has a policy for this. It is not being followed.
How long has it not been followed for? Has this happened like many times, or is this a one-off thing?
It has definitely not been followed that we get it 10 days in advance many times, but I don't remember us getting it as late as this one anytime in recent times.
Nor do I.
It is a policy.
Yeah, there's policy.
Well, Madam President, all I can say is I read through them. They look accurate to me. I think everything has been covered. I know that Ms. Marino has traditionally been very diligent about writing these. I don't see anything that's glaring that was omitted. So I guess I'm not sure what to say about this.
All right, then we already have a motion on the floor.
Call the question.
And Army
The
seconded,
motion is
yes.
to postpone.
Who has a question?
No, call the question. Go ahead.
Yeah,
and-
call the question, yes, because David raising his hand, yes, call the question.
Alan has his hand raised as well. I would just say that I'm kind of surprised that that there wouldn't be a level of courtesy to your colleagues who have not had the opportunity to review these minutes. There is no great hurry. There is no one who's beating down the door right now asking for these minutes to be posted. We've been later with minutes than these. And so you do have the ability, you are the majority of this board, you do have the ability to run over us, you know, you have indicated on more than one occasion, all of you at one time or another, that you would like to have our board be a bipartisan board. This is not how a bipartisan board acts, by telling the members of the minority that you should have read the minutes and we're going to approve them anyway. We make changes, we propose changes to the minutes every set of minutes we get. I can't remember any minutes in my 10 years on the board where we haven't proposed changes. So it should not be a surprise to anyone that we would like an opportunity to review them. The surprise is that you all are even considering the idea that it's more important to approve them today than to be courteous to 3 of your colleagues.
Alan, hold on, Alan hand is there. Yes, Alan.
The point of order is that shouldn't we vote on David's motion to postpone, which I second?
Well, that's the motion that should be voted on. But I think in fairness to both Ami and Alex, who were not part of this, there is a board policy regarding when minutes are supposed to be disseminated for board review. So I don't know if you're aware, if Ami and Alex are aware of that policy that was agreed upon probably 6 or 8 or maybe 9 months ago. And I don't know if that changes your view on things or not, but
it was longer ago than that, Kevin, I believe.
I don't remember when it was, but all I was saying is, obviously it preceded Ami and Alex being on the board.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let them know that there was that agreement with regard to when minutes would be distributed to board members. So. With that said, there is a motion, there is a second on the floor, and
a motion to postpone.
And Madam Chair, I will turn it back to you.
I am. So which motion?
Vote on the motion to postpone first, and then.
All right.
And then after that, depending on what the vote is.
Madam President, I have one other question.
Yes, Alex.
Would Mr. Naaman, would he clarify, does he wish time to review the minutes, or does he wish time to listen to the recording and then make corrections based on what he's listened to?
David?
Well, first of all, I'm not the only one who does this. And in fact, Alan, this also may be a difference, Alex, from your last term on the board and your current one, but in recent months, Alan has been the most thorough reviewer of the minutes. What I do is I look at the minutes, I look at things and see where I have questions, and I go to the recording for those areas where I have questions. And so, for example, in the September 18th minutes that we just approved, the minutes made reference to the 14th early voting site needing approval of the county executive and the county council. As you probably remember, the statute does not say county executive and county council, it says the county governing body. So I went to the recording to find out exactly what was said and concluded that since it did say on the recording that it was county executive and county council, it was appropriate to put in the minutes, even though that's really an interpretation of the statute, not the statute itself. But ordinarily, I look at the minutes, I determine whether it fits with what I remember, and then I go to the recording for any areas in which I have questions. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Banov does something similar, although he can speak to his process. I'm not quite sure why that should make a difference. as far as everyone else is concerned, those recordings are available to us and the public. I do think that it's actually a benefit to all of us that we do have something to refer to, because all of us tend to remember things in our own way. And the recording kind of adjusts for that, so that you know, so that it's not just reflective of each of our kind of individual perspectives.
Alex?
Well, Madam President, in view of what Mr. Naaman and Mr. Banoff have said, and as you know, early in my new stint here on the board, I would be, as a courtesy to them, prepared to withdraw the motion to approve the September 20th minutes and renew that motion at the appropriate time at the next regular meeting.
Okay.
I will agree with Alex on that. As a courtesy, I was not part of the board during that meeting, so I did not, while I attended as an observer, I have no stake in the minutes per se.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Alex's motion was withdraw. Mr. Davis' motion. Can you call the
I would withdraw my motion, because it sounds like we've already agreed to postpone until next month. So it sounds like my motion is not needed if others agree.
Okay, yes.
So
therefore,
who seconded my motion? Was that Alan? Were you the seconder of my motion, or was it Elise?
I was. I was a seconder.
You're okay with withdrawing my motion, given that?
Yes,
Alex
please withdraw your motion. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked for the seconder.
Great, thank you.
So we start fresh. Forget about what we said. Now we are saying we will review the minute next month.
Thank you.
You have to say many, many thank you, David. Okay, thank you very much, guys. All right then, minutes.
Future meetings.
Huh? Future meeting, November 15, 2021. And for December, we decide when we need a meeting or we don't need a meeting. And the rest of the things, you have it in your calendar. So,
Madam President, I did include in the board packet a review of the potential Board of Elections calendar requirements of time for the 22 election cycle through the primary.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted everyone to be aware of the time requirements. And I also want to point out that if the legislature changes the law that allows us to open ballots via vote by mail earlier, there will also be some front-end requirements before the June 28th primary.
Yes, I hope you all saw that tentative schedule. Please review them and put it in your calendar, because when we have canvas, we have canvas, no excuse. Okay?
Margaret, was the current list that you gave us roughly based on what we've done in the past?
Somewhat, but I did add, I really wanted you to focus on June and July.
Right.
June and July. Thank you, Margaret. Yes, Ami.
I have a question about this. How many of these dates might be subject to change if the redistricting drags on?
Just, we'll still have the election, and you'll still have to count these ballots, whatever is voted upon.
And monthly board meetings.
Yes. June and July, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer.
Unless the court comes along and says otherwise.
Right. You're right, David. Any other question? Do I get a motion to adjourn the meeting and go to the executive session?
I move we adjourn.
Madam President?
Yes, ma'am. Sir, sorry.
I believe that Mr. Banoff had a motion that he wanted to make.
Yes, I started to make it before. I'd like to move that we accept the Imam Center as the polling place for
Thank you, Alan. Yes.
precinct, what is it?
1307, I believe.
1307.
Thank you, 1307.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I had it. Thank you, Alan. Now for the adjournment. Who made the motion?
Diane.
I did, I move we adjourn.